Today I'm going to be working on an interview question for intermediate front-end developer. I happened to jump on this question in one of the interviews, and I thought to bring the solution to you. Could there be anyone out there who needs who is preparing for an interview? These little tips I'm going to share today might just help you, in one way or the other. And basically, what we're going to be covering today is we're going to work on the first thing is basically there's going to be an API that's going to be provided to you. So where you're going to fetch your data in the interview process when you are given this assignment to do. It may probably be you do it at your own leisure time or live coding, whichever way. They're going to provide a URL for you to fetch your data, and then they'll ask you probably to display your data in any form, probably in a table form, or just display it on the website, on the page, on the website, just on your browser, just display it and let them see that you're able to fetch this data. So we're going to first thing we're going to do today, task 1 will be to fetch data from external API. And the second thing we're going to do today, after we fetch the data, we are going to display the data. We're going to display the data on the DOM. And also, after doing that, then we're going to see how we can actually extract a part of this data and display it in a tabular form. So we're going to do this third one, which is task 3. Is going to be like we're going to extract a section of the data and display in a tabular form or display on a table. So let's say for now, these are the 3 things I'm going to show you now, and probably you will be given a time frame. Basically, sometimes it's always an hour or less than I think an hour, or maybe an hour 45 minutes. It depends on the employer, how many time they want to give you. But regardless, just trying to work within a time frame so that you're able to beat the time, and also you're able to go back to your code and make some corrections if needed. So basically today we're going to start, and the first thing we need to do is we're going to get an external API, and the external API we're going to be using today is going to be this one here. So you're going to be giving something like this. You're going to be given something like this to work with, and let's even see the structure of this API. Let's see what it's going to display to you when you search online. So it's going to give you this kind of format, and if you see very well, look at the structure. It has the data contains an object, and inside of the result we have an array of objects inside of the result. You can see it's an array. You can see it's going to start with an array, open brackets, open square bracket, and it has an object again. So inside of the objects, we have several objects, and inside of each several object, we have again nested objects. Some are key and string, and this location has a street, which is an object, another key, this is a string, and this is another state, a string, and see again you have coordinates, that is another object inside an object. So it's nested data. So you're going to, in a way, extract some data from here and you use to populate your table. But with the data we're going to be working with today is going to be this location. So we're going to extract this location and we're going to display its keys. All these keys: street, city, state, country, postal code, coordinates, and times. We're going to display it as a header on our table, and we're going to have this data. So we're going to have all the data in API, we're going to have all this that display under those headers, because we're going to extract every data, which is the first data here is this one, the first object, this first object, which ends here. So we're going to pick this object. We're going to only take the location from this object. We go to the next one again. We take this location. We go to the, and we have 20 lists of data here. So we're going to take 20 locations out, but we're going to write our code in a way that we only take the headings and we now populate this data. So as I'm coding along, you're going to understand what I'm trying to say with all this explanation. The first thing we need to do right now is to fetch this data and let's even paste it on this browser. So the first thing we're going to do, let's take out this h1 tag out, and we have blank page now, right? So the first thing to do is that let's go and create our function to get data from another component. So let's create a new component and we call it fetch API.js. We're going to create one function to generate data from the API. So you're going to call it, let's say const. We're going to call this const get people API, and it's going to look like this. This is a function. So the first and foremost, what do we even want to get? So we're going to use a fetch method, and it's going to be an async function. So we're going to have async here, and we're going to say here we're going to have await fetch. We're fetching this we're fetching this. So when yeah, okay, no worries. I think I copied the wrong one, so I'm gonna do it this way. Put it in a colon. It's a string, so we have to put it that way. And so we fetch this data now. We need to get data, right? So it's gonna be .then. So we've made a request to get the data from this API, and we now the then method is what we're getting back. We're getting data back, right? And it's going to be data.json, because it's going to be if you don't, you have to you're getting it back, you have to convert to JSON file, JSON format. Otherwise, you would not be able to use it. So we have already created this function now. So we're going to export this function by default. So when we export, we're just going to export here. So we're exporting this data now, sorry, this function now. So when we go down to our application, we can import it here, and we say import get people API from API. So this is it. So when we call this function, so how can we call this function so that we can get this data? What we need to do is very simple. So here, the task one is to fetch data from the external API. So here, the first task now is to use a use effect function, use effect hooks rather, to call this data. I'll call this data inside of that. So that way, once this page loads, my data is being fetched. I want to call the function just one time once that page loads. So what am I calling? I'm going to get people API. So if I say save, so it's calling the function now, but what I want to do with the function, so I want to get it, what is responding, what I'm getting back, which is data, right? Getting the data. And what am I doing with the data? Let's say we console log the data, right? So let's save it, and let's go to our browser, and let's check our browser if we're getting something back, which we should be getting something back. It's saying undefined, line 6. So what could be the reason why it's saying undefined? So all we need to do is just have to check why it's saying undefined. I'm calling the function and I'm not returning anything. That's the reason why. So we don't really need to, we can actually do it this way. So I think we should be good now. Yeah, we're getting something back now. So that's the error. We didn't return the function we're calling here. So now we're getting data back, right? So what do we want to do with that data when we get it back? We want to be able to populate something. So basically, let's do something here. Call this out. Why don't we destructure because we're getting a result back now. If you check the structure, the structure of the data, all we want here is the result, right? That's what we're going to be needing. So why don't we just destructure it here, and we have it there. So if we console log, if we console log now, if we console log result, we're going to be getting a result back. Okay, it's just going to be giving us only the results. Sorry, it's the results, not results. So we have the result back, right? So we have all the result back. So now what we need to do, we equally want to get our location out. We equally want to get our location out. So this is what we're going to do when we call that function. So what we're going to say basically is that put that function in a state so that we can always reuse it, right? So like we said, the first thing is to fetch data and display. Okay, now we'll fetch the data now, right? We've done the first task, which is to fetch data. So let's just copy this one here, cut it out, I'll paste it here. So we've been able to fetch the data, we'll be able to see where the data is, right? So which is beautiful. So we've achieved the first task, is to fetch the data from the external API, and we have it in our console now. We are getting data back, right? So the next thing to do is to display data on the DOM. So we want to display this data here. So all we need to do is very simple. It's either we create a state. We create a state here, and we say, let's say data or fetch data. Let's say fetched set and we'll do this way, react dot use state, and our data is going to be an empty array. So here we're going to take this method, the setter method. We're going to say here, please set our data, set fetched data, this one to that. So what we're going to do now, we don't want to display these now on the console. So when we use a pre tag, and we'll say this fetch data, no, it's going to be Ctrl Z. Let's say Ctrl Z. Let's say JSON, because we want to display it now. We have to stringify it. Okay, and we'll put it there. So when we click, we're supposed to see it on the page. Okay, you see, we have our data here. But now we're not getting, it's on one line for us to make it prettier. What we need to do here is just to pass in null and 2. So this was going to help us restructure it this way. So we have it this way now, which is perfect. We can see all our data. You can see all the data now. We have it here. So we've passed the first assignment, which is to display it. Second assignment rather, which is display the data here. We fetch the data, we display the data, which is beautiful. So the next thing to do now is we want to get just the location house, but we need to get the location header first. And this is how to get the location header. Is so simple. I wouldn't say it's so simple, but it's a little bit logical, but you're going to understand it now. So when we are fetching the data from an external API, we're going to flatten the location, right? Let's get the location from our result, just the location from the result. So how do we do it? We need to map through the result and just return only the location. So how do we get that? So we're going to say, let's say const here, and say flatten location, and we're going to say this. So we're going to say we're going to map through our result. That's what we say we want to do, right? We're going to map through our results, and when we map through our results, we're going to say results now dot map. So to every result, return result dot location. That is what we want, right? Results dot location to return this one to us. So when we save now, results is not defined. Sorry, here results. It's saying results is not defined, but we have results here. Okay, this is what we're supposed to do, guys, because results is Command Z. So result is not available, Command Z. Result is not available outside of this then method. So we need to do that inside of the then method. Okay, we cut it out and we say after you've set this to this, we need to, okay, before we can do that, we have to do this. Since we're not returning only just one line again, so we have to do it this way. And here, we're going to say this. So this is going to work now. No, this is not what we want. So we say this, and we say this, and we say this. This is what we want. This is the behavior we want. So now if we console log this one, we're going to get something back. So let's console log. So you're going to say that this flattened location is going to give us all the locations. So when we save this page, we go here. When we check the data, you can see we have the location array. See, everything is location. If you don't believe me, check location here. You see the location here, and see that it's street. Instead of street, you have number, name, and we have city, state, country. See, we have street, city, state, country, and everything. So we are getting all locations back, right, from this. So what we need to do is that we will need to set it. We need to create another state called flatten location. Okay, so we can pick this and say copy and paste it here. And we say set flattened location. So what we're going to do right now is, instead of just equating these to a constant variable, we don't have to do this. We just do this. We copy all this. So that way, we are setting this flattened location to this. Pretty much that is what we need to do there. Yeah, we need to catch error in case there are errors. So let's check where this last ends. So here, dot catch. Just I will say do this. This is just normal practice, okay? You catch an error, and you say, what do you do with the error? Just maybe console log the error. Just console log the error, or error the message. You can just get the message out. So that way, in case you have an error, it's going to console log the error for you. So now we have this flattened location. So now we really don't need this. We can actually comment this out, or we can just leave it there, because that's one of the assignment, right? Just leave it there. So the next thing to do is that we need to get out the headers from the location, right? But just so you can see something on the DOM, let's check the location. Let's render out the location. So we say this, and we say, for us to differentiate, let's put this on style and say background color. So let's say red. So we can differentiate, or yeah, we can differentiate this. So we have this. So I just want to differentiate from the other one in case we print it out, so that we see, you know, the difference. Okay, this one is going to be this one. When we'll save, you see that we have all our locations here now, right? So that means we're getting something back. So now we can actually take that out. We don't really need that. So just for you to see that we're getting something out. So now we're good, right? So the next thing to do right now, let me take this thing out because it can be very annoying. The color is just too conspicuous. So now we want to flatten the location, and we already flattened the location, right? We need to get the header out of it. So how do we get the header? If you notice very well, look at the structure of the location. I think we printed it out in the console. Let's leave it again so we can have it back. So if we check now, look at the structure. Okay. Console log flatten location. No. Let me take this out. Here, you can put it there. Save. It's gonna give us. Yeah. So now look at it now. So look at the structure. We have street. We need to get this street out because we wanted to use it as a header, right, for the table. Streets or column headers. So street, city, and all that. That is what we want. So how can we do that? We can do that by using by saying that how can we do this? So we're going to say that we can call a function . We can call a function. . we can call a function. I'm trying to think about this, guys. Just give me a minute, please. We can create a function, and we create a function. Okay, you know that from here we're already getting a flattened location. We're already getting location here, right? So why don't we okay, why don't we do something? Why don't we, when this page loads, why don't we call a function called flatten location? That when we call that function, we can do so many things inside of that function. Okay, so what I will basically do is that, and we can actually set our flatten location there. So what we're going to be, we're going to create a function called, like I said, flattened location. So flatten location rather. So this is what I'm going to say. This is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to create a function here, const flatten location. I'm going to say this one, and it's going to take in an argument, and the argument, a parameter, actually an argument, yeah, which is going to be location. You're going to go take in a location, okay, because that's what we're dealing with, right? So now what do we want to do? We want to say when this function loads, do this. Let's cut this out. Come here. Let's do this. Let's do this. Carry out this method here, operation here, and we're going to say set flatten location to So here we're going to say this thing. Now this one returns as a location, right? That is what this does. This function here, this mapping the results returns as a location, right? So here, let's say we leave this for now. We comment this out, okay? So here, instead of us, what we want to do, you want to call this function here. So we said here, call this flatten location here, and it takes in location. Remember, it takes in location. And so what is it going to take here? This is going to take, because this mapping through the results, it returns a location to us, right? So it's going to take the location and pass it in here, and here we want to let's console log the location. You see, we're still getting back the same thing, right? Still getting back the same thing, pretty much, right? So now, why I'm doing it this way is because we're going to use this function to create a lot of things. So here, I'm going to say set flatten location to location. But now, let's change the name here so we don't have it confusing. We don't have it confusing. So, but here, because I want to get the header, and also I want to get the data. Okay, I want to get two things from that location. I want to get the header location. I want to get the headers of the location, and I want to get the data in the location. So what I'm going to do basically in my use state, I'm going to create an array that has objects, and the object has header. Header that is going to be an empty array, and data that is going to be an empty array also. So please mind my error here, comma. So this is what I want to have, okay? I'm saying line 16 is saying flattened location here, ed location. So it's saying line 28 is saying console log flattened location is going to be ed. I think we should be correct now. Okay, now so but we don't really need this anymore. So let's take it out. So since we already have the data on the page, so we don't need this one, so that we don't have too much console logs. Okay, this is line 15. We are console logging something. We don't probably need this again. So now, so now here we have location, right? But we're not gonna do it this way. We're not gonna say flatten the location. Okay. Remember that flatten location, that location that we passed in here, this one that we have from here, this one that we have from here. Basically, the location, it's an array of objects, right? Of 20 objects actually. So we want to get the header out, and also we want to get the data. So we're going to get the header out, we are going to create something called we are going to create, inside of this place we have the location here now, so we have what we need here inside this function. So what we need to do here is we are going to create something called, okay, now because you remember that our locations have, like I said, it has an array that has 20 objects, right? But what we need is just the header, is just the keys of that location, of just one location. So let's just say, let's take one of the location, let's say const location equals to locations at 0. That is just anyone, just you can take 10, you can take anyone, but I'm taking the first one now, and I'm saying to the first one, and I'm saying, okay, now that's the location, right? And I'm saying when we set this flattened location, right here, it's actually going to take, is an array, it's going to take an object rather. So what I want you to take header. Remember that when we declare it here, this line 7, it has an header, and the header is going to be what? It has command Z, and also it has a data, but we don't have a value for them yet, right? So what we're going to do basically is this. So here, since we have location, I want to get the keys of those location out. So let's create another function called const extract keys, right? We say extract object keys. So extract object keys, and what we're extracting is the keys, which are this one, which is street, city, state, country, postal code, coordinate, and time zone. That is the keys these are the keys we are taking out from that object. So how do we do that? So we create a function. So we create this function, and we say, but it's going to take in an object, right? It's going to take in an object, and the object is going to take in. It's going to be location, right? It's going to be the location. That's the object we want to do something on. So we're going to have this, and okay, what we're going to do basically is that, okay, we want to iterate over this object and get the keys out. So we're going to save that key somewhere. So let's object keys now. Let's say this is going to be an empty array, okay? And now what we need to do now is we need to do something. We need to use a function called object.keys, okay? .keys, object.keys. Now, what is the object we want to pass in our object? So we are creating a dynamic function to handle this thing for us, okay? So when you take in that object, so the keys now, for each, you're going to say for each, right? Object. For each object key now, do something. Let's say we say console log the object key. Let's say we console log it. Let's just see what it is going to give us. I don't know why this short command is what it's doing with this. So let's say objects key. Okay, but let's see how we can do this. So when we call this function, hold on, let me check something, guys. Sorry, hold on. I want to see how I can call it so that I can get a data. So where can if I call it somewhere, I want to be able to get the data. Okay, so let's just create a function first. Let's create a function. So we know that when we get this data, we're going to return the keys, right? But we're going to do a function. We can remember that what if the key is an object again? So what are we going to do? So we're not going to, let's take this out. Let's just do a dynamic function that we'll test it later. So we're going to say, now let's make a condition. So let's create a value that we can use to make this condition. So we can say const value type. So what I'm basically trying to do here is I want to know if the keys, if it's an object, I want to check if it's an object or it's not an object. So I'm going to say const value type is equal to object that will pass in at a particular index. We're going to use the keys now as the index, right? So we're going to pass in the object key here. So I'll say if value type is not if it's not an object, then what do I want to do? I want to push that value type, that object key rather, right? That because we are saying here, look at it here from this line 23, we are saying the object now, which is the location, at index of its key, any key that it is. So let's have index of key street. Okay, so set it here. So we are checking that if street is not an object, then object key dot push. We're pushing it inside of the object key, and we'll push it object key, right? We push it this way. So we are pushing it now. So our array object key is being populated now, right? So you are getting a header now. You're getting a header, right? So we'll say, okay, if this is not a condition, if it's not, then what do we do? We say object keys, right? Is equals to this. Return to me whatever is in the object key. Return to me whatever is in the object key, and also do this. Do this object. No, so it's not going to be object. So we're going to call the function again inside of itself. Okay. So, but when we call this function, we need to return something. So we are returning object keys. Okay. We're returning object keys. Don't mind the error. We fix the error now. So now when we say flatten key, now flatten location, to get our header, we're going to call this function. And we'll pass in location. Okay. Ctrl S. Okay, we're going to pass in this location. So that way we're going to get our header, right? But we need our data. So how do we get our data? From the location. You remember that the location, let me take this out first, so we don't have the error. Location is not defined. Locations line 15. Locations is not defined. Here, locations is what we're passing in. Control S. Okay. So now look at it this way, guys. Our data. Look at the location here. We have the location here, right? And for us to access this data, we say location.street.number, .street.name, location.city. So we want to get all this data. So how do we get all this data out? It's very simple. So at here, all we need to do is to create let's say data. We need to stop empty array first, right? So we're going to say for every location in locations, do this. So we're going to say for const location of locations. Do this. What do we want to do? We want to push data. We want to push something into data. We want to push data. Push location. Push location into the data. Okay. So now, but we need to destructure what we know. Well, this is where we now have to unpick those data. So we're gonna. Why don't we just destructure this thing here? Destructure this one. what do we have in location? We have streets, right? We have city, we have states, we have city, we have states, we have country. You see, this what is giving me this suggestion is tab 9 is helping me out here. So we have country, we have post code, we have coordinates, and we have time zone, right? We have time zone. So these are the things that we have inside of location, right? One location. So it's the same thing as writing for const location of locations. So here, what do we have? What do we need here? We just have to say streets data now. Say data dot push, right? So we are pushing. Sorry, I don't know why I wrote it this way. This one I've been able to say data dot push. We are pushing inside of data. We are pushing an object inside of data, and we're saying the first thing we are pushing in is what? Is streets. So what is streets? Remember that street has some is an object of its own, right? So we're not just going to pass in street like that. We're going to say street is going to be, so we're going to, what we need here is actually the data that we need here is name. We need name. We need name, but it has to correspond with our location header. Okay, so we need to do something. We actually need to see what our location header looks like first and foremost. But before then, let's just say our number now, because we can't just say this. So we're going to say our number now. Number is going to give us streets dot number, right? And our name is going to be street.name, right? And our city is going to be this one. And our states, street.states. Our country is going to be street.country, right? And our postcode is going to be streets. So it's going to be this, and our postcode is going to be postcode, and our coordinate is going to be coordinate dot it's going to be latitude here, because we are picking everything out. You will coordinate dot latitude, and our longitude now. Our longitude is going to be this, right? So what else do we need? Time zone. We need time zone. And so our time zone, let's just offset. It's going to be, offset is going to be time zone dot offset. And our description now is going to be offset. It's going to be offset. It's going to be, sorry, it's going to be time zone. So we have everything now. We have now we unpicked all the data. So this one, data, is just going to be here. We're going to comment this out. We're going to say data is going to be data. Okay? Data is going to be data. So if we save now, we're going to console log our data to see what we have. Our flattened location. We need to console log this. We need to see what it's going to give to us. So if we do it here, V. So let's see what it's going to give us. Yeah, we're getting something back. So you see, we're getting a header and a data. Okay, and our data is what? 20 data inside, 20 objects inside, which is correct. Our header. Check this thing, guys. See the header. We have street. We have we have this. So now we need to display this now in a tabular form, in the table as a header. So how do we do that? So what we need to do now is we need to render flatten location, this flatten location dot header. Now we need to render it out in our return statement. So Now we say display data in the DOM. We've already done this part, right, guys? So we've done this part. We can take that out. We can just leave. So now task 3 is to extract a section of the data which we already did and display it in the tabular form. So the header now is going to. This is what we're going to do now. We are going to call. We are going to call. We are going to do this. Okay. Let me check how to display things on. That can be very confusing sometimes, so I just needed to check how to do it. Okay, I know that we have to create a table tag, and inside of table we are going to create a table head. Or is it table head or table head? Yeah, it's table head because we're displaying table head. Table head. And also now this is, we're going to create a row, right? We're going to, inside of that table, we've got table row. So inside of this table row now, this is where we're going to display our headers, right? So we're going to do this. We're going to say flatten dot header. That's the data. This is the header. This header here. So we want now dot header. We're going to say that we're going to map through it, right? We're mapping through it. So we're going to map through it, and we're going to have header, right? We're going to say location header now. Let's call it location header. Each location header, and let's say header IDX. We do this. So we are returning something. So what are we returning? We are returning table heads. Table heads. Each cell. So that way, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this. We're going to say table head. So what are we returning inside of the table head? We are returning location header. Each location header, return this to us. It's going to be so annoying. So now the train us error. Let's check what the error is. So here we are missing one parenthesis here. So we think we could. So let's try to see what's going on. So we have this and we have this. So here we see to have one here. I think we're good now. It's safe. So you say cannot read property map of. So flatten header is saying it can't read this one. The issue we have here is this one. Is this particular item. So even though when we console log it, we are having data, but when we are setting our use state here, I think we shouldn't make it an array. We should just make it an object. We should just make it an object. I think if we make it an object, yeah, I think if we make it an object, we're going to be good. Let's try that. Let's try that. It shouldn't be it should be an object that has two data inside, two arrays, right? Two arrays. So if we take this out, I think pretty much now this should work for us, because now let's just try it. I hope this works. Oh, I think it works. So let's check. Okay, yeah, I think it works, guys. See, I think it works. So we have it now, right? So for you to know it works, let's give it a style so you can see that it's cells, it's individual cells. So let's say background color. So background color, and we'll say, let's say we give it blue. Yeah, you see it works now, right? And let's say color, and we'll say white. Yeah, I think it works now. So we have data. So this is what we want to achieve. Maybe I can put this, I can take this out. I think I can just take this out, and I put table head here, and I just take these ones out. I think this should give me what I want. Yeah, this is it, perfect. So anyway, let's just leave it like that. So now we want to display the data inside. So we've been able to achieve that. We have the data head now. So what we need now is the data inside. So the logic behind this is almost similar to this. So we're going to create another we're going to create another table body, okay, and we're going to have, instead of the table body, we're going to have table row, right? But we want to display our data in table row. That is what we're going to use to display our data. So we're going to do this. I'm going to say flatten location now. Flatten location dot data. We're mapping through that also, and we're saying location data now. You can use any variable here. You don't have to use the variable I'm using. And we're going to say location data IDX. So that we don't make that error again, copy this, put it in the parentheses, and say this, and we are returning this. And so what are we returning? We are returning a table row. We're putting everything in a row. And what are we returning in the row? Okay, now this is the logic. We're going through this data here, and we're saying, okay, we want to every, you know, that to every location we have, each location has this data. So here that we're mapping through this location data now. So it's not okay. Maybe we do something here. Let's even display. Let's display something. Let's display. Let's display this. Let's do this so you can understand what I'm trying to do here. And let's display location data. Control C. Let's see if it's gonna work. And let's consider this out. Let's save. I hope it doesn't break. You see? So now this one, we want to display this one under this table head. So now we're going to do everything like that, everything till the end. So you can imagine all this. So what we need to do here now basically is this. So here, so when we map through now, this data will return that each one, right? But it's still an object. We can still work it. So we need a value inside of the object. So we're going to say this. We're going to do this. We're going to map. Before I forget, I don't want to make that mistake again. So key is this. So now here, I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to paste it here. I'm going to say this one now. I want to map. I want to get the value of this object out, right? So I'm going to cut. I'm going to say object dot value dot values, right? What's a value of what that of this location of this thing? So I'm mapping through that. I'm going to say location value now, right? Value and value IDX. You know, just you can use anything. Like I said, you can use any name. So what we are we doing? I don't want to make that mistake again. So we cut out this and we'll put it in the parentheses and we'll say this. So what are we returning? We are returning something. We are returning table data, right? So we are returning TD. And what are we putting in the table data? We are returning this one. So now remember that this two, you have to put it here. So let's cross our finger and I hope that this works. So when I save now, I should be able to see data populated on the page. We're not getting anything back. Okay. You know what? We don't need this anymore. So let's take this out. Well, this is where we have the error, guys. Let's cut it out. See. This one. We are returning a JSX file, so we can't have this one. We can't have this one. We're returning a JSX file, so this is what is causing the problem. Guys, this is what is causing the problem. So here. So we should have our data back now. So this is it, guys. This is what we need to do. So now we have our data populated, but we don't have time, we don't have description, we don't have some data. This should fix our data. See, fixed it everything. It just fixed everything. So that is just, we were comparing the data type here, but we didn't do it very well. Object type of, that is what we need to do there. That is just what we did there that was wrong. Okay, now that's perfect. So we need to take out all these consoles. 69. So now we're good. So we have our data now. So what we need to do now is, we want to find a way to sort this array, because they're not sorted array, they're not sorted the right way now. So we need to create a function that when we click that function, so we need to create a function that when we click this title, this headers, we want to be able to get the key, the object key out now. So let's do this. So when we click the header, this one, right? Duration header. So when we click on this one, we'll say on click. So we do this, and let's say console log this one. So now we do this. So now if I click this, I should be able to see name here, right? Name, number, city. But this is what we want to do with those data. What we want to do basically is that, so let's create a function here now. And let's call the function sort colon. I'm going to create this function out here. I will say const sort colon. So it takes in a parameter, right? And it's going to be, let's just call it this one. Or sort key, let's call it sort key. Sort key. And what does it have to do? Okay, so let's just, again, let's console out sort key. So it's supposed to give us the same thing back, okay? The same thing back, okay? The same thing, the same function back. But what do we want to do with the sort key? We're going to use some. We want to sort our location array, location data. We want to sort the data, right? We want to sort it in alphabetical order or numerically ascending order and descending order. So what we need to do, there's this function, there's this sort function that we are going to use. But to start with, because we don't want to mutate our original array, data array, so we're going to clone it, sort of, create a new array. And we say let's new flattened location, right? The new flattened location is equals to we're going to spread our data. It's an object, right? Remember, our flattened location here is an object, right? So we're going to say new flattened location is an object that has we're going to spread in our flattened location, right? We're going to spread in our flattened location, and also let's spread in the data, because it's data we're actually looking for. So we're going to say flattened location.data, right? We're going to say flattened location.data. Location.data. So that way we have our flattened location. So what am I doing here? This one. This is it. So the data is an array, right? So we are spreading it. We are spreading what we have in there already. But now we've cloned this data, right? So just for you to understand what I'm trying to do here. So if I console log this one, you're going to see that we are not mutating our array at all. We are not mutating the array at all. So here, if I click here, you see, so it's giving me back our array, our data, flattened location data, but it's a new one is giving me now, not the previous one. So we have a cloned new one now. So what do we want to do with that? We want to be able to sort our array alphabetically or ascending order or descending order based on these new data. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a function called we are going to say our new flattened location dot data dot sort. We're going to sort it now. We're going to call a sort function on it, but the sort function is going to take in two parameters, because the way we are sorting it, we are sorting it based on an array we are passing in. So you are comparing two arrays together, and I will say if you're comparing this data together, rather object, say if this is the bigger than this one, so do this. So it's a logic that we're going to implement here. So we call this function, and we'll say this is what you should do. Compare these two arrays and do something with it. So we're already passing our sort key, which is we're using our location header to sort it. So we're going to say here now, we're going to create two constant variables. I'm going to call this value A, and we're going to say value A is going to be a sort key. Oh, not sure. No. And we're going to say, we're going to create this condition if value A is less than value B, return -1. Return -1, right? Return -1. And you do the same thing again. Okay? I will say if A is greater than B, return 1. Return 1, and else just return 0. Basically, so that is what we're doing here. Sort key. Oh, okay. I think I made the spelling. Sort key. So we should be good now. So now, since if this condition it happens, so now this new flattened array dot data has been sorted. So we're going to use it to we're going to say set flatten location now. Location to this new so that way the array, the data, the flattened location dot data that we spread into the new flattened location array or object rather. So we're going to use that to replace our data. So now if we click on this one, see what is going to happen. If you click on anything now, see it sorts it orderly. You see, if I click on this one, say ER, it will sort it orderly. You see, E sort it, and if I sort my city, it sorts it orderly. Location, so it will sort anything you click orderly. So now you want to be able to click it again, and it goes back to the unsorted version. So we're going to create a state to track that. So how do we do that? So let's come here. We can say const is sorted and set is sorted, and we'll say react.useState, and we can make it false, so that way. So we're going to make a condition now. We are going to say if it's sorted is false. So if it's sorted is false, copy this one, cut it out. Actually, cut all this out. Cut it. Say if is sorted is equals to false. If it's false, then do this. Then carry out this sorting, right? And we'll say else. else. So if it's not sorted, then do this. But now we're going to be changing this to greater and this one to less. So it's still going to work the same. So it's going to, what it's going to do is it's going to do the reverse of the first one. So if I save, so now look at it. If I click this number, it's sort. If I click it back, it go. Oh, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Okay. Sorry. I think I forgot to do something here. So when it is sorted here, if it's false, then do this. But after doing that, set is sorted to true. Set it to true. And when you're done here also, so now when it is true, so now it was initially false, right? So when you click, it sort the array ascending order, right? So it gives us back that ascending format. So now set my is sorted to false to true. That way, this condition when you're clicking again, it's going to pass through this condition. It's already here is true now, so this is not going to run. So it's going to run the other one. And when you're done here too, also set it to false here. So that when you click again, it's going to run the first one. You get the logic, right? So this is it. So now our application is working. So I believe with what I've already explained to you today, you'll be able to do justice to this and be able to solve it perfectly well. Please like my video, subscribe to my YouTube channel so I can give you more content on this channel. Thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you so much for everything.